another element to this is Cody Fajardo, Michael Riley, two guys that could easily be in an MLP conversation at the end of the season, head to head with each other, and this game becomes almost a linchpin for which we can say, this is the thing that pushes this guy over the top, over the other.
Welcome back to the 11th Island, everybody. I'm Brad here with Chris, aka Drake Jr., and week 8 of the CFL has just wrapped up, and we're going to get into it here and then touch on week 9, give some of those predictions at the end of this video. But Chris, where are we starting with week 8?
We're starting on a rainy night in Ottawa, 24-7 for the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Red Blacks. Brad, what is the intrigue from that game?
Well, I mean, this game, Ottawa did not play good. I mean, it was a quarterback carousel, ending it with Nate Bahar, one of their wide receivers, taking snaps at quarterback because Dominic Davis and Matt Nichols were both hurt. It was a situation where Hamilton, if they had started a Dane Evans or Jeremiah Masoli, who unfortunately neither of them are healthy, and was aggressive during the game, this score is much, much wider. But instead, you had Watford in, who, again, this is not a shot at him. He did exactly what he needed to do to win this game. Hamilton knew that there was no point in taking risks here. I mean, they took a risk and there was a pick six. You know what I mean? So it's play it safe. Just do enough to win the game. I think he had 120 yards passing, something like that. That's all they needed to do. They know Hamilton knows their defense is very good, especially against a terrible terrible Ottawa offense. And I mean, that's all I mean. What else you got on that game, Chris?
I mean, the one interesting thing for the Ticats was just I thought the run game was good. There was nobody that really jumps out on the page, but I think there was just a consolidated effort to really run the football in that attempt to play it safe. And I think that's really one of those things. They're going to have to learn to really fight tooth and nail for every yard in unconventional ways in order to be able to squeak out wins here. Because the defense, obviously, the defense is going to put you in a really good spot, but you're going to have to do something, especially going into any game that's not against a team called the Red Blacks. So I think really this was almost a workshop for a lot of the run game and seeing, okay, can David Waterford, can he run the ball? He ran for a good 50 plus yards. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that run game gets implemented more in games that are going to be a lot closer coming up.
And I think we're going to see, too, if you really get the Hamilton run game going, which they have the potential to here once Dane Evans, Masoli come back, once you pick the QB that's, I don't know if you're going to be picking healthiest or if they both get healthy, you probably roll with Dane Evans as he was doing early in the season. If they come back to a strong run game and then pick it up in the passing game again, Hamilton might get to that expectations that we had for them at the start of the season. I mean, they're rolling along right now. I believe they're tied for first in the East with the Argos still right now. I think that's where the standings are. So we know their defense is good. Some question marks on offense that probably get figured out as we go along here. A lot of them are with just quarterback injuries, and Ottawa continues to be a punching bag. Even when the other team's not, their defense still played well. The rain's going to help a lot with that, but Ottawa's defense so far hasn't lost that, other than the one game, they haven't really lost that kind of composure. They're still fighting for their team, even though there's so many 2-and-outs. Going into the next week, there's going to be a lot of question mark. Well, we know the answer. That we're recording on Tuesday night, and so we know that there's the rookie QB. For the life of me, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but Matt Nichols and Dominic Davis are not starting tonight for Ottawa.
Yeah, let me get this name because I'm thinking.
So we know that Devlin Hodges, too, the former NFL QB, a fan favorite when he played for Pittsburgh, is signed with Ottawa for 3 years. I think the situation is you don't rush him into he's going to fail if you rush him into a game. One, he needs to learn the playbook. He needs to learn the Canadian system, the league itself, and no QB is going to have success in that Ottawa offense right now. It's just they don't have the personnel there. So don't rush somebody who, if you sign Devlin Hodges for 3 years, he's probably going to be your future QB for the next 2 years.
Yep.
Don't rush him in and ruin him, because we've seen former NFL players come in to these lesser teams, or even some good teams, think that they're going to run the show, and then flop out. So I think it's again that. Do you got the QB's name for tonight? I feel bad.
Is it Anthony Pruneau?
I believe so. Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
so he's making his first career start tonight. So hopefully he's able to do good and get some stuff moving in Paul LaPolice's offense. But
Hmm.
it's going to be a tough rest of the year for Ottawa. I mean, they're going to be thankful to get that first win of the year, or else they'd be looking at a goose egg going late into the season. So that first win was very good for them to
Yeah, and you
get.
mentioned Paul Lapolice there, and it's kind of been interesting to see as the course of the season goes on. Where I mean, the Red Blacks from top to bottom have been very bullish about kind of the haters and the people, the doubters, and we're going to stay optimistic. We're going to stay optimistic, and continuing now as all the quarterbacks go down. You know, you got the duck waiting in the wings, as you said, and then you got the rookie coming out to try to salvage something on a really short turnaround week. I mean, this has been kind of tough. I mean, actually 6 days, so still on the shorter end of things. After playing one of the best teams in the division, you know, one of the toughest defenses in the division, one of the toughest matches. You know, it's just not a good matchup for you in the rain. You know, to still be staying optimistic and my question really is, can you ever, as a team, and other teams have do this in other sports, but it gets responded to different ways. But at what point do you say something other? Do you say a statement other than, people, we're going to prove people wrong this season, and you know, when do you kind of just be honest and say, you know what, we really got to just blow this up and start putting pieces back together for next year?
Well, if you were gonna say it, it's coming up soon for the Red Blacks here. It's tough though, because I mean, this is a business, and the
Hmm.
CFL is such a ticket driven league.
Hmm.
And how are you gonna sell tickets to fans by essentially telling them that we're not here to win football games?
Hmm.
When if I'm going to an Ottawa game, I want to win football. I want to see a team go out there that's winning football games. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Ottawa's probably going to be. I mean, the attendance struggles are going to be happening here soon for Ottawa if they haven't started
Mhm.
already, because of the product that's going out in the field, especially
Well,
once this
and
colder weather really starts to kick
another
in too.
aspect as well. You know, you have the novelty of going out and watching live sports, which I think is going to carry Ottawa Red Blacks through August. It's carried them through August. You know, it's carried them through September. You know, people want to get out and people want to go to live sports, and that's the game in town. But now, I mean, the Senators are going to start up soon, fans in attendance. You know, other sports are going to start up in Ottawa.
And no matter how bad the Senators are too on the ice, if they are bad,
It's the
indoors.
fresh novelty too, right? It's
And
I've
it's
watched a
indoors.
football game
It's
now. I've
yeah.
watched a football game live. Now I get to go watch a hockey, so they're going to get a spike. You know, it's going to
Yeah,
be
but it's
tough.
also but I think really too, Ottawa gets cold. Why you're not going to want to see a team that can't put more than 7 points on the board playing a foot and a half of snow,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's not much else going on in Ottawa other than the Senators, I don't think.
Yeah,
After
that's what
that,
I was trying to think. I don't think because they just have the what is that, the Air Can, or not the Air Canada Center,
it's
the
Canadian Tire
Scotiabank,
Center,
the
Canadian Tire Center,
Canadian Tire
Canadian Tire.
Center. That's what I was. I've listed the two names of the Toronto. This is my Toronto man look right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I mean,
one of
even
Ryan's
we were
characters on
there.
his YouTube.
And we were there not that long ago to the Canadian Tire Center. What was that?
Yeah,
Oh, I guess it was 2019. That was a little while ago.
yeah. That was. I mean, that was the before times, back when, you know, we didn't even think about this stuff. So you think about, you know,
Yeah, that was
I think
BC
the
before COVID.
novelty. I see the hashtag. What's the hashtag for the Red Blacks? For when you go to the games and you're hanging out, you're the one that's leaving fire emojis on everybody's.
You got me. I have no idea what the hashtag for the Red Blacks
And
is.
so, but I mean, you've been seeing the Instagram posts, you've been seeing the fans in the stands, lots of red out there through this whole season, and I think people are just excited to be able to watch live sports, see their team again after such a long time off. But it gets to a point where, and that's the difference with. I would go to a like when a team is that I really like is doing bad. I'm gonna go because it's gonna be fun to go see them, and then you can sit in the stands and you tell all the guys. Someone hates and he's like, just we're blowing it up, building. Rebuilds are fun. Rebuilds can be fun if they're done right. If it
You are
feels like
you.
if it feels like we're
I mean,
just kicking a can down the road,
you are
and
the absolute anomaly in the situation that thinks that rebuilds are fun. And that is the fact that you can enjoy that. I don't know what that says about your sports fandom and some of the teams that you've had to cheer for,
well,
unfortunately, growing
yeah,
up with. But it is, and most people are not here to see losing efforts for their teams. But
I mean, especially
I
after a
think
year
we
off.
yeah, especially after a year off, and especially when it was very clear in the off season that they didn't do anything to prevent this like disaster of a season. But we're
Mhm.
hammering on them a lot. So speaking of being in attendance for games, what's the next game, Chris?
Well, the Argos they sail on 30-27, beating. I mean, slight margin. It was not as close of a game as this
No.
scoreline suggests against the Alouettes. Brad, what was going through your pretty little head while you sat in the stands there?
Yeah, well, I was sitting next to you. You were wearing the same exact outfit as you're wearing on
I haven't
camera
taken
now.
it off.
For the audio only listeners on Spotify, Chris is wearing a pleather jacket and
Hey,
a
leather,
Argos
leather.
snap.
They can't. Hey, you can't tell.
So I'm sorry, a very expensive brand of leather jacket with a Argos snapback hat on backwards right now. But it was, I mean, we were sitting in our regular seats, as you know, if you listen to this, we're season ticket holders, and it was a really good game. It was a high scoring game, which has been rare in the CFL this season. We were Nick Arbuckle was hurt hamstring injury, so
Hmm.
Macbeth stepped in, and Macbeth was banged up a few times in this game where Pipkin had come in for the Argos. So I was a little worried because
Hmm.
Macbeth has kind of been. I mean, we saw him at the start of this year, and he was benched for, no offense, but good reason for Arbuckle.
Hmm.
And Montreal has been a real kind of hit and miss this year too with Vernon Adams, where he's either really on or he's really off. And Vernon Adams put up good numbers in this game, almost thrown for 400 yards, but those two interceptions were very timely. And the Argos were able to capitalize on situations that came their way, put points on the board, and the spread. You're right. It was not this close. Montreal scored a kind of not garbage time because they were still kind of in it, but to push it close. So yeah, it wasn't garbage time, but
And,
they came on strong late.
and the interesting thing is, Geno Lewis, when he caught that ball at the end, and he
Hmm.
was pushed out of bounds, like he got out of bounds. He thought he had time.
The last
He
play, yeah,
yeah, he thought he
they
had time,
were.
and he was. I mean, and I was like, hey, maybe like because I think he did. You have your eye on the clock, your one eye on the clock as you step out. You know it, like he knows better than anybody else what point his foot hit the ground to go out of bounds.
Well, the one thing is, and
Close game.
we talked about this at the game. BMO Field does not have great sight lines for
Mm.
play clocks, especially when you're
Hmm.
facing the, what is it, east or west end zone, the one that is the water side end zone.
Yeah, and the
There's because
visitor
Montreal,
bench side.
yeah, visitor bench side, because Montreal took a delay game in a really bad spot,
Hmm.
and me and you were going, where even is the play clock? And it's way in the
And
corner there.
it's a different color than the one on the other side. It's like red.
Yeah.
And
So it's a yeah, exactly. So it's a
honestly,
situation.
I was thinking, Brad, and
Mhm.
if you are an employee of BMO Field, this is a joke. All right, we're not suggesting anything, but I mean, it would be very easy to hypothetically, or not even easy, accidentally, a flag blows around. You could reach a flag could reach that and cover it up.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, if the visiting
I'm
team
not
is
suggesting
driving down
anything
that way.
because there's some crazy Argo fans in that section. They go nuts. So I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean,
suggesting anything.
there's not a lot of Argos fans out there, but the people that are Argos fans, man, they represent. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, this is as good time as ever
Yeah,
to show
talking
one of the best
about
Argos fans in the world.
and
Soul
now
Man.
this is a guy that would definitely not let a flag fly over the play clock. This is upstanding gentleman. Soul Man 773 on the Instagram. Season ticket holder. He's always there. Really fun page too. Nice guy, teacher. came up to us, had a nice talk. So thank you, Soul Man. Oh, I think I muted Brad. I think the Brad's muted when he comes over here. 1 second. Bear with me, everybody. You know, we're gonna look at this picture and then and
Yeah, I
Brad is
mean, I'm
back.
sitting here, I'm sitting here talking, and Chris is just talking over me. I'm like, "What? Can you not hear me?" But yeah, Soulman, it was great to meet you in person. We talked a little bit online before, but it was great to see you in person. I mean, CFL knowledge with this guy is
Mm,
through the roof. Football knowledge as a whole through the
mm.
roof with this guy. Clearly, it was great to meet in person. Hopefully, we'll be able to see at some of the other Argos games coming up, and great follow on Instagram
And
too if you're into CFL
and
news.
if he is listening, I'd love to have him on this program.
Yes,
He'd be
for sure.
like really like smart football mind. Loves the game. Wants to share the game with others. Gracious
Mhm,
guy. Can't say
mhm.
enough. Speaking of other really great guys, I'm gonna make sure your audio doesn't lose here. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna switch this over and
Jumping
then
into the next one.
yeah, Brad, you're
Can you
on.
hear me,
Yeah,
Chris?
yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
okay.
You're on.
Yeah, and then of course Gino Lewis, former guest of the show. It was great to meet him after the game. Even after a loss, he was willing to come over, take the picture, smile. I already know what's coming from Chris here. So just get into it.
Well, Brad, I was gonna see if you were gonna take it and get out ahead of it, but I'm gonna give you that opportunity here. If you don't want to, then get ready.
I'm ready to take my lumps. Just give it to
Yeah,
me.
okay. What is going on with Brad's hands here? This is just like he looks like an alien boy. Just like you gotta have both hands on his shoulders. See, I went for the sit
You,
back. You gotta sit
you
way
had
back on the
you
pitch.
had 4 days. You had 4 days to play in this. So in all fairness, what happened was I was giving him my phone. I was looking for somebody in the sidelines to take the photo. Gino just quickly grabs it, goes, "No worries, like I'll do it right now." And I thought he was gonna have to unlock the phone, but I didn't realize I'd already unlocked the phone. So I was reaching over to be like, "I'll give you my passcode," and then all of a sudden the photo is about to be taken. I'm leaned over. I have a big "what do I do with my hands" moment, and next thing we know, we're taking a photo where it looks like I'm hovering over Gino. So
Yeah,
Gino, if you're listening, I'm
you're
sorry.
doing the hover. Yeah, you're doing the hand hover. You don't want to put your hand on her shoulder. You don't think you've reached that level of formality yet, and you go and you oh, and then you get stuck, dude. You just got
Yeah,
trapped. You got Medusa in a
yeah.
terrible position. You got
But
Medusa.
in all honesty, thank you, Gino. It was great to see you. One of our favorite guests on the show. He like if you haven't seen the interview, make sure you check our interviews playlist. It's really insightful
Hmm.
to his talk about Montreal and everything. And we did that. I believe we did that before training camp started with him, right?
Yes, yes, we did that. Yeah, he had just gotten into Canada then for the
Mm-hmm.
season. So that
Yeah, I
was
mean, yes, because he was in the hotel quarantining. The hotel Wi-Fi wasn't working properly, so he went out to his car on his own data to do the interview with us. So I mean, if you that's all you need to hear to know what type of guy Gino is.
and to also just be like if I took a picture with somebody and he was doing that with the hands, I'm not even going to show it again. I'm not even going to show it again. I was going to pull it up and I was like, "No, you won't do that to Brad." But I would I would say take that photo down. I don't be Anyways, let's get
Well,
into the game. Let's get
at
back.
least I'm not wearing pleather for a full YouTube video, but that's another story.
Yeah, I'm getting
So
warm. Anyways,
the Argos game. We're staying on this right now.
yeah, yeah. Let's stay on this. Let's stay on this. Just because I know the West Coast guys love hearing what's happening in the East Coast where it's at. Montreal Alouettes, kind of an interesting spot that they're in now because they go into this game neck and neck with the Argos, and now they're a game back. Are they a game back? They're more than a game back.
Yeah, I think they
They're
might
two
be a
games
game back.
back. Yeah, they're 2 games back now.
It's becoming very clear that 1 and 2 in the East is probably gonna be Hamilton and Toronto. It's just a battle for that.
Hmm.
So Montreal is kind of gonna be locked into that third in the East spot. The only question is somebody in the West gets a better position, right? How it works in CFL, you
Hmm.
have that crossover team. So Montreal is, if the way it keeps going, they're not going to be looking ahead in the standings. They're going to be looking across the country. They're going to be seeing what the West standings are.
Hmm.
And the West, I mean, the West has some struggling teams as well.
Hmm.
So I don't think they're in danger of that right now. But it's some Montreal. they're going to need to pick it up. But I will say they're dangerous team come playoff time because they can
They
heat up like
and
that,
and
and
and,
then you never know what's going to happen.
and they are a feast or famine team.
Mm-hmm.
Really, real like and you saw they were famine for the first half. Second half they were feasting, and it just
Mm-hmm.
takes a little spark. Vernon Adams, you got Wyke, you got Lewis. They're just the funnest guys to watch. They are
Yeah.
so fun to watch live.
Yeah.
And
No, they.
seeing they're just going everywhere. Some big, 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 big plays for Vernon Adams. I mean, almost 400 yards on that too,
Yeah, and
on
it's a
that
thing
game.
where with the interceptions and some of the mistakes that were made by
Hmm.
Vernon Adams, if he cleans those up a little bit, you're looking at a damn near like a
Yeah.
really good
Well,
game
and
where it's
that's the
just a
thing.
couple of moments that are
You
holding
you
them
you
back.
you get the numbers that Vernon Adams does when you kind of play roulette a little bit. You gamble. He's a gambler out there, and which
Hmm.
is why, as I said, feast or famine. Like you either win big or you really put your team in a hole. And it was kind of bouncing back and forth that whole game between those things. Whereas
Hmm.
McLeod Bethel Thompson is the kind of guy to just be, and I mean the whole Argos offense, whether he's playing or Arbuckle's playing or whatever, their whole offense is meant to be. We're just gonna like next 10 yards, 10 yards,
Yeah.
10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, and just keep grinding away and just scrapping out every yard. Whereas, Vernon's going to say, I'm going to sit back a little bit in the pocket and try to blow this game open.
Hmm. And now, before we go on to the next game, which is
Mhm.
probably one of the best games of the week, too, maybe the season,
The best,
I gotta,
yeah.
I'm gonna give you this question.
Hmm.
Nick Arbuckle, I'm not sure I'm not sure to the extent of his injury, but as it stands right now, Nick Arbuckle comes back to the Argos. He's back being the starter,
I
or do you
think if
stick with
he's
Nick
healthy
Pat?
next week, he plays next week. If he's not healthy next week, then we got to have eyes on McLeod Bethel Thompson.
So you
I
still
think
get
you
it.
get I think you get one game. You get one game, no matter what McLeod does, where it's just,
Mhm.
you know what? Like, you were hurt, you're the guy, we made you the guy, and you were hurt out. But then, I mean, two really solid performances from McLeod Bethel
Yeah.
Thompson. I mean, if you're
Well,
in the
this is
Argos
the Argos
spot,
have a bye week. They have a bye week this
okay,
week.
so they have a bye week. So, I mean, I really expect to see Arbuckle play in the next game.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
you can go to that bench with a little bit more confidence now. I think, depending on how he recovers from the injury, how he recovers from 2 weeks of not playing or not playing in a game.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of questions, but I think there's more. I think if we really have to view this, if we're in a, or we, I'm trying to be impartial here. If the Argos are in a playoff race against or a race for first against the Ticats, who
Mhm.
have, you got to look at their quarterback situation and then look at the Argos quarterback situation and say, you know what? If it took Arbuckle getting slightly injured to just get another look at McLeod Bethel Thompson, and we like what we see, but we're still pretty satisfied with how Arbuckle was playing, I think that's a good place to be in comparison to where Hamilton is.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it's a situation. This is Nick Arbuckle's team, and I think you
Hmm.
just look at the situation. The ceiling for the Argos is the highest with Nick Arbuckle under center, so that's got to be what you roll with. We got to go for You got to go for it all here, and the ceiling is the highest with him.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of a pretty high ceiling, there was no ceiling in BC. That game just kept boop, 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 boop. And the final score 31-24 for the Rough Riders, Brad. What was going
Yeah,
on in this crazy, crazy, crazy game?
well, in all fairness to us talking about this game, I think it's worth noting off the start. And I mean, one of the guys is going to be furious in the comments, but
Furious.
we cl-
Hey,
we
but we were
clearly,
we were out getting some sun. We were out
yeah,
getting
we
some sun. We saw your little comment. Put it back
yeah,
up. Put it back
yeah,
up. Don't delete
yeah.
your
You can't.
comments.
Yeah, don't delete your
We
comments.
didn't delete that.
We get the emails. We see it, but yeah, everybody else is going, "What's going on?" But clearly we were at the Argos game. We both had to. I drove home after the game. Chris had to take the train home after the game. So clearly, by the time we get home, the game was finished. So we've box score watched. We've checked the highlights. So if there's details of the game that we missed, we're sorry.
Yeah.
We're desperately
Yeah, you
sorry.
should have
We
seen the
forgot to
stuff out.
DVR it.
Yeah, it was a crazy go back from Toronto after that
But
concert. Nuts. I'm not
but
going to get into it.
but the game itself, I mean, Saskatchewan, we were kind of questionable after the two Winnipeg losses back to back. Saskatchewan has found their mojo back clearly, putting up another high scoring game. BC is again this is their second game in the year where there's a high scoring back and forth game where they come out on
Hmm.
the losing side of it, which at the end of the year, especially in a shortened season, you're going to win a few of these games to make sure you get in the playoffs. Saskatchewan clearly is establishing themselves as the number 2 team in the West. And
Yeah.
I think, again, it's a situation um, different than Montreal because Montreal's struggling where Saskatchewan's not so much, but can become very dangerous in the playoffs, even against a Winnipeg team, because they can heat up quick. Fajardo can get really rolling in the game. I will say, box score watching here, clearly there was a lot of field goals on Saskatchewan's side, so you're gonna have to beat the better teams like a Winnipeg. Those have to threes need to become sixes if you're gonna stick in there.
Hmm.
And against a BC team that gets it done against Winnipeg, which they probably don't get Winnipeg for the rest of the year. I don't think they already played them twice. I could be wrong. Could be a situation in Toronto Hamilton where they see each other 4 times, but that's something that the offense needs to keep working on as the season goes along.
Yeah, and I think that the another element with the Rough Riders is that their last two scores were gifts. 2 fumbles on punt return and kickoff return from Lucky Whitehead, who I wanted to also say had a really great game on everything other than special teams. He was the guy, their top receiver from the day. He was dynamic. He was breaking tackles. He was moving like he scored a touchdown on like a 40-yard run, something, or
Yeah,
like
I
he
mean,
received like
why is your top receiver returning punts?
I mean, that's the CFL. That's what you do, you know.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't care what level of football you're playing though. I don't think
Mm.
that should happen unless you're a high school team with a really short roster. Your top receiver should not be returning punts. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Well, but one thing for me, that final kickoff where this is going to drain the clock. You have to return it to the house here. You're down 1.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other option. The Lions really had a setup of just like they were everybody around Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna just all push this. I mean, even though he had just on the last special teams play made a fumble, I'm almost going because he's so fast and he's so elusive that
Yeah,
if I'm throwing my chips, I'm going with the most athletic guy on the team, and I'm praying that he can hold on to the football on the reception.
well, I understand that late in the game when it's let's come back. Earlier times in the game, I don't want my top receiver returning punts, not for like
But I
worry
want him
of
to practice.
fumble.
I want the most athletic guy out there.
The problem is that you get your top guy returning punts, where you're looking at or returning kicks. This is one of the fastest plays in football, highest risk of injury. I don't want a top receiver getting hurt doing something other than playing wide receiver. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's my issue. When you're saying at the end of the game when it's we have to score here to win the game, I could see sticking them back there because
Mm-hmm.
this is a high, we can accept the risk. That's my feeling on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, BC they got a good squad going on. They really
Mm-hmm.
do. It's just putting it all together. Mike Riley too, or Michael Riley. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so bad for that. They should call him Mike. He's clearly healthy.
Yeah.
I think those early season elbow struggles are gone.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen some more of a Canadian QB in
Nathan Rourke.
but the CFL is better when Michael Riley is playing at the best of his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
especially
and
when you got because he's probably the number 2, like I would say the second best QB in the league. And when your number 1 QB, Bo Levi, has already missed time with a broken leg and now is on a very much struggling Calgary Stampeders team, you kind of need your stars to be playing good and doing good.
Well, I mean, one thing here that I think is an interesting element to this game. I mean, people are calling it the most exciting game of the season so far. I think this was some great football. Whether you could never have watched a CFL game, and people are like, what's the CFL about? I wonder. Show them this game because it really had all the elements. Dynamic, special teams as a huge dynamic and a quirky dynamic. A lot of really scrappy plays, and I think that another element to this is Cody Fajardo, Michael Riley, two guys that could easily be in an MLP conversation at the end of the season, head to head with each other, and this game becomes almost a linchpin for which we can say, this is the thing that pushes this guy over the top, over the other. And I think for Cody Fajardo, that's an interesting thing where I'm don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Michael Riley's stat lines are better. But the fact that Cody Fajardo is able to squeak out a victory, most visually diving headfirst into the end zone, into chaos and danger to put his team ahead, that's some of the stuff that really is going to come into the conversation when we're talking about offensive MLP at the end of the season.
I agree. I agree. I don't think there's a better way to put it there. Yeah.
And was that enough? Was that enough BC Lions talk for everybody? I just want to make sure one last thing for the BC Lions. This show is long. This is a long show, but I say let's just keep on rolling.
Yeah, I was gonna say we are. I was. But one thing, this is longer than we've went for. And we still got a lot to get to.
This is a strange thing, right? This is a weird, strange thing, right? You know how they put the logo of the team at half, at the 50-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You say, okay, like somebody got the spray paint out. Well, it turns out TSN was putting the BC Lions thing, that was just digital. And there was a point in the game where they weren't even like blending it in properly. So the players looked like they were running over it. It was just over the players. And I was just saying, I could do that.
Audio listeners are like, "What's going on?" Chris is.
I could do that.
BC Lions logo over me.
But it looked like someone just took a PNG and just popped it in there.
Yeah, now I know why it took an extra 15 minutes to prep for this video.
Yeah, it took me forever to find a PNG of the. No, I was. What do you think? I was watching the highlights because I didn't watch this game.
All right. Enough of week 8, Chris. What's all right? Getting into week 9.
All right, let's get into the week 9.
I mean, we're getting into week 9 here, but as I mentioned before, right? The first week 9 game, right?
It's is right now, dude. It's in 10 minutes, and we got to upload this video.
Yeah.
Or at least coverage begins in 10. Consider this the coverage that begins in 10 minutes.
So, Chris,
Edmonton Elks, Ottawa Red Blacks. I mean, the Elks are minus 8.5, over under 42. What's going to happen? What do you think?
So, I'm not giving a pick on this just because, I mean, there's no point. I mean, the game's about to and it's just going to make myself look stupid if I'm wrong. I'm going to say either Ottawa does exactly what they've done all year and stank it up. And don't forget, I'm pretty sure it was Edmonton that Ottawa beat earlier in the year. So Edmonton's a little revenge game for
some
them.
Drama.
Mm-hmm. So if Ottawa keeps it closer, wins, clip this. Wow. Incredible. Ottawa actually won a game. If Ottawa does exactly what they thought we do, they're exactly who we thought they were. We say the same thing every week, that they're a punching bag. Move on to the next topic.
Game that fascinates me up next, October 1st. Blue Bombers versus the Lions. Bombers sitting at -3, even though they're on the road.
Right?
Yeah, in BC. Over under 53.
I'd stay off that over under because this is, I mean, Winnipeg and BC have shown that they can put up points on the board, but again, Winnipeg's defense can easily just stifle them. I would say, I think the play here is Winnipeg because make Winnipeg betting. You're not going to win money this year betting against Winnipeg. They're too good, and I mean, look what they did to Saskatchewan, and then look what Saskatchewan just did to BC.
There's an
Right?
Argos fan that had an impulse bet one time this season that tends to disagree, but continue.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying there's a guy out there who bet against he's like, Argos are in town. I'm gonna bet against the Bombers. He got
Yeah.
lucky.
Well, yeah. Well, I said that, and Ryan disagreed with me, and he said there's no fluky win, so I'm taking that back. I did not get lucky. That was a good play. So, but the play here is Winnipeg. Make Winnipeg. If you're not an absolute BC fan this week, and you just don't want to cheer against your own team, bet on Winnipeg. And if you lose money on Winnipeg, you're just gonna have to be okay with that, because you're
Hmm.
gonna feel like an idiot betting against them and then losing every week.
Yeah, and it's a pretty friendly cover for the Bombers, -3.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Yeah.
best, the one of the tightest that we could
Yeah.
get the Bombers at this season.
Yeah. I'd feel very comfortable with 3
Yeah,
points.
and
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about where are the BC Lions heads at. Are you discouraged from a loss like that against the Rough Riders going into a game against the powerhouse of the division, or are you more motivated? Are you more hungry?
Yeah. That's a good point.
And that's
And,
a question that only
with
the
the
BC
and with
Lions
the,
can answer.
and with the way Winnipeg's been playing this year, doesn't matter how motivated they are. They're just that good.
Yeah, we'll have to see. As Ryan says, there's no fluky wins. So whoever's going to win this game is going to go out and earn it. Just like
Hmm.
the situation as the Ticats head back to Hamilton to take on the Alouettes. The Alouettes don't get to go home. They have to go further, maybe in 45 minutes west on the
Hmm.
QEW. And this
And
one
what's the
is
line?
really close. The Tiger Cats are -2.5 on this. That's
See,
fascinating.
for this game, if Watford is starting, I honestly I take Montreal money line. If Masoli or Evans is starting for Hamilton, I take Hamilton, and I probably at that point just take money line as well. But this is very much a situation where I don't. Montreal, even though they're on the road, is going to and they're getting to a kind of a frustrating point of the season where it's kind of make or break soon enough. So I think that this team is good enough that they're gonna the pressure, even with the pressure on, they're gonna say we got to step up now. We got to put points on the board. We got to start winning some football games.
Hmm.
And Vernon Adams and that really good air offense that they have starts putting points on the board. I don't trust
Hmm.
a David Watford to keep up. I
Hmm.
don't trust that at all. I would trust Dane Evans or Masoli to put enough points on the board for that stout Hamilton defense to hold back
Hmm.
Montreal enough. So that
Yeah,
that is, I think
I
that's a
think I
situation
think
where we
the
need to wait on.
Ticats defense can win or lose this game in a lot of ways, and I think that the game plan has to be you got to really put the pressure on Vernon
Mm-hmm.
Adams specifically to start the
Mm-hmm.
game, get him in his head, and then eventually he's going to break out and get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But put the pressure on as long as you can. But he's going to break out eventually and make a couple big plays. Then you almost just have to go to no doubles defense. You got to play deep on these guys. Really rely on your secondary to kind of hold back those wide receivers and
Yeah.
pray that your offense can do enough. I think this one's a lot of intrigue here on this game.
All right. I agree. And is that the last game, or do we have more?
Then no, in Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, the Rough Riders are taking on the Stampeders. So the Rough Riders are -3.5.
A lot of these lines are probably going to change by the time game
I
time comes
think it's a
around.
little bit early on these.
Yeah. Yeah,
Some
especially,
things
I
are going to
mean,
start to shift. Which I mean, if you're listening to this video right now, maybe you see something that jumps out that you know that's going to shift.
mhm.
This is we'll give them a shout out for this purpose. It's Bet Regal. Check out these lines. Some of these lines early on, you can kind of finagle them
Yeah.
a little bit because they
Well,
don't shift for a while.
yeah, I mean, well, people are going to hit them hard, which is going
Hmm.
to cause them to shift. So being that first line of
Yeah,
people
no,
is the
exactly.
one that causes them to shift.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, to me, this is again, it's Calgary's at home. They got a good I don't want to the good foundation of players there. But
Mm-hmm.
until they prove that they can win games, I'm not betting on them, especially against a Rough Riders team that is against anybody not named the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is looking amazing this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even on the road here, you got to take the 3.5 points. Maybe if you're really worried about it, bet buy a half point back and get it to 3.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to go with Saskatchewan here.
Yeah. All right. Well, now it's time for the mystery topic. What do you want
Yeah,
to talk
which
about,
was
Brad?
well, I was not allowed to know what the mystery topic is before we got into the show.
Yeah,
So I'm
there's no
curious.
mystery topic. I just wanted people to watch through to the end.
Well, I think we're already super late on this.
Yeah.
We've been going late on this video. So I
Yeah,
think the mystery
so
topic would be um nothing for this week. And I think it's just time to tell the people what they need
yeah,
to
there was
know.
only 3 games, so then we had an extra box. So,
And we went probably about 15 minutes later than we expected to. So we ready to just get into the itinerary at the end, Chris?
yes, let's
You got anything
hear
else?
it. Let's hear it.
All right. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. We're coming out with CFL weekly content every single week. We got interviews with CFL stars in our interviews playlist. Make sure to check that out. We have a 350 subscriber giveaway coming out. Check the sports cards playlist. And we're coming out with immediate reactions like UFC and boxing on the weekend. All sorts of stuff coming from this channel. We just ask that you stick around, give us a chance, and hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on audio, check us out on YouTube for YouTube only. If you're listening on YouTube, check us out on audio, where we're going to be coming out with new audio only. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to podcasts. And that being said, we'll see you next week. Enjoy the slate of CFL games coming up.
Stay safe, everybody.